welcome to Aligned Impact. This is your host, Ben Cassani. Today we'll be talking about finding your niche as a coach and some of the challenges to getting your coaching business started.
So I'll just do a little introduction. Ben Cassani, finished the RMT Core 100, got a background in IT and technology. I've got 4 kids. We adopted 3 of them. And that was at the same time from the same family.
Wow. Oh, so they're brothers and sisters.
I took a program a while back called emotional processing. So I've been using that. And it's kind of like a hypnosis that we were taught in class, but a little different. And I've used it with a few people and they're like, oh, this is amazing. We kind of combined multiple coaching tools.
Yep.
And I mean, my business focus has been, I want to see about how to help coaches in their first year. How do they get started? Because I have a lot of technology skills and business consulting skills. And I'm like, ooh, maybe I could use that. So, right, I don't know, maybe I'll switch, but I just decided I got to pick something, some focus. And then if I don't like that, I can switch.
So your niche is helping coaches get going within the first year. Amazing. That's awesome. Yeah.
And so I've been studying that. I'm very much a networker. I love and I'm also realizing I need to value my energy. Sometimes I'll just talk to someone like, that was a $500 session. That was a $1,000 session. Like, oh, I had no idea that was that valuable.
Yes.
And I bet you've probably gotten comments like that in your own work or in relationships that you don't realize how valuable your energy is at ENFP, because I'm guessing you know how to pick up on the vibes and you intuitively kind of just flow and help people, but at the same time you can be exhausted from it or be very energized by it.
Yeah, I find it very energizing. I think what happens is you start off in coaching because normally we've gone on our own bit of a journey, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, I felt this way. Now I feel this way. I feel so much better. I want everyone to feel this way. Let me just help everyone. And
Yay!
then,
It's easy.
Yes. And so as you start doing that, at some point you realize you get feedback like what you got, which is, oh my gosh, I would have paid such and such dollars for this session. Yes, I'm giving away a lot for free, but because you're really just wanting to add value. There's a way to add value that leads to where you can have a sustainable business. And there's a way where it leads to burnout and no business. And that's what we call friend zoning yourself with potential clients.
Give me a little introduction of your background with your niche and some of your skills and maybe 1 or 2 superpowers you've recognized through your RMT journey and your other coaching courses of like, oh, I didn't realize this about myself. Like I have a lot of value here.
Okay.
Introduction and value.
Okay. Introduction. So a little bit about me. I come from corporate, so like similar to you, except my background was in human resources. So I went to school. I was doing a double BA in psychology and sociology. There was a particular class that I was taking, and it sort of drove me closer towards the business side. And so I went from doing that to going into human resources management. So I was like, how do I help people? But I also love the strategic leadership side of things too. So I mixed the two and ended up in HR.
Big ideas and kind of finding new ways to do things.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess that was also the structure piece of my personality, was that when I started, I was sort of would notice things right away that I was like, this could use improvement. And so then I started putting my hands in the business everywhere. And then until I moved, I started as a corporate recruiter.
Okay.
And then worked my way up to human resources generalist. At that point, the company that I was working for was being acquired. So I did all the acquisition paperwork and handling all the employee concerns and stresses of what comes along with a company being bought out.
And a lot of emotions and how to deal with that.
Yes, exactly. Technically, my introduction to coaching really started in human resources. And I think that's why when I stepped out of HR, when I had my kids, my 2 daughters, I really took some time to reflect about what was it that I loved doing and what was I the best at, which kind of goes into the second part of your question. But it was really when people would come into my office and they were didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go. And it would start as a professional conversation, but a lot of the time it touched personal as well. Those conversations, when they would leave and I get feedback from them about how much it helped them, energized me so much. And so being able to reflect on that, I was like, okay, I love that piece of HR. And then I also loved sitting on the leadership teams and talking about the growth of the company, but mainly the growth of people at the company. And so that's really where I started to realize I love working with people and helping them grow and get to the future that they want to be at. So that is sort of my journey. I have over 7 years experience working in human resources before I went off and did the Tony Robbins coaching. And so certified by him in Core 100. And then also I did Reagan Hillier with Mind Valley.
Okay.
Do you know
who Mind Valley? I'm not sure if I've heard Reagan, but there's some great people on Mind Valley I follow.
Yeah, so her work is interesting because I'm a very logical person. If you told me that I would have taken a manifestation, a getting into the body, feeling like, yeah, yes, that's the sound effect. Yes, exactly. That I would have been like, yeah, that's not me, never. And now I understand how important that part is to help somebody really through a full transformation. So it added to my tool belt because I learned about NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming. I learned about hypnosis. I learned all kinds of other things, the 5 main core blocks that most humans experience, and then how to move people out of them in under 30 minutes. So I'm a certified laser coach. And so it changed my belief system about how long it takes somebody to experience.
What's the 30-minute process called?
It's called laser coaching.
Laser coaching. I like that because that's one thing I saw in Tony. And as a teenager, I struggled with feelings and bad health and depressions. I got kind of sick of therapy because it was just like, what results am I getting? This is taking forever.
Yep.
And I met a few people, and my wife's one of them, where she's like, boom, 30 minutes or an hour. We just went through like 20 sessions or 6 sessions. And I'm like, why am I wasting my time when there is a way to do it faster? It just got me thinking about that concept a lot because with the right training and timing, people can make a huge amount of change in a small amount of time.
Yep.
If the conditions are right and you have the right tools.
Yep.
So
exactly.
I'm
it's
like,
also about
high five.
Yes, I completely agree. And it's what the coach believes. That particular program helped me shift my beliefs because when I first started, so I was working because of my background in HR, my network involved a lot of executives.
Yeah.
And so when I was coaching one of my first clients who's an executive, the CEO of a local company, I felt like the longer I spent on the call with him, the more value I was giving him. It felt like that's what he felt too. Like, oh, you've gone over time with me today. Like, thank you so much. Yeah. But I've shifted my belief to being like, they actually need time back in their day. So I need to deliver results faster. Do you have the tools to shift somebody quickly and to cut through the story that people share? Because that's what we do, right? We have all these different stories about what's happening in our life and to cut through it quickly in order.
Have you seen the Guru? I'm Not Your Guru. It's on the Netflix special by Tony, and in it, this girl's like, "Oh, I'm trying to lose weight, and this is my problem." And then he's like, "No, that's not your problem." Like, and then it gets to her relationship with her father and her relationship with emotions that she's not facing.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of these people come with these surface level issues. I think we all get caught up in stories. But what's behind that? If you shifted that would be worth 10 times more value to your life.
I think the way that I've heard it framed that really resonates with me is like a person's a tree. Let's just say that they're a tree and they're kind of rooted in where they are and all the branches are their stories. If we're in a long coaching conversation, this kind of reminds me of therapy, like I'm dealing with all these different branches. But in laser coaching, you go straight to the root. So we're not bothering with your branches. We're going to the root of the tree. And from there, when we know what's happening, we can uproot that and then plant the seeds that need to be planted. It was a great realization for me to have. And that I think is true for any coach when they're first starting. That's what we want to do, right? Is add value.
Yeah.
And that piece is like, well, you also have to value your own time. And then that goes into boundary setting and all of that. So
yeah, a part of what got me into this was I was talking with friends on social media or at work, and it turned into an informal coaching slash you're also friends slash and and it made some really interesting boundaries dilemmas and a lot of interesting feelings. And my wife's like, you need to go get training and do this for real. But have people open up, especially if you exude that warm, kind energy.
funny that you say that, because literally I had a mom stay after we dropped our kids off, and she started crying with me this morning about stuff that's going on in her life. So yes, it just starts to come out naturally, I think. Yeah, I don't know. And she just goes, I can't believe that just happened. And I go, it's okay. It happens a lot with me.
Yeah.
I'm used to it. It's okay. So luckily her and I are chatting now. Hopefully I'll be able to help her and her daughter out.
It sounds like you have a gift that you're recognizing, you're nurturing that gift, and you're finding a way to offer more value from your gifts.
Yeah, yeah. It's been quite a transition. If I think about where I was originally and what, I was like, I wanted to offer things for free. I wanted to help. And it was very enlightening to realize that giving something for free, people just wouldn't do it. They would not take my free things. And then I was like, oh, interesting. So there's a whole entire psychology even around that. And so for coaches starting out, that's actually probably a good thing to know. I'll say a little bit more on it, I guess, and then
Go for it.
move on. The reason why people don't do that is because there's a natural tendency that if somebody gives something to you, you feel like you owe them something. When you offer a freebie to somebody, they feel like if they take it, they need to give you something. A lot of the time they feel like they're going to owe you to sign up for your package or to enter into a conversation with you. A lot of time people just don't want to do that, and it's not even a conscious thing. It's like a subconscious. I just don't want to take on more. I don't know if I want to go to a sales pitch because that's what we're all used to getting. Interestingly enough, part of one of my programs was that I had to get testimonials in order to get my certification.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'll offer a free coaching session in exchange for a testimonial. Then I had no problem getting people to sign up and have conversations with me. So I was like, oh, that's very interesting. I have to ask something from them. What a great way to also grow and promote your business, because testimonials are so important, right? It builds like, know, and trust.
One client gave me tickets to Tony Robbins' UPW in exchange for personal coaching sessions. They liked working with me so much, like, please, how can we set this up? And they're like, can I offer you a ticket? I have this ticket I can't use. I'm like, okay, I'll do that.
That's amazing. Yeah, what a great offer. Or exchange, I should say. Yeah.
I really like what you're saying. I see, especially with the ENFP, ENFJ, INFJ, INFP types, those are the very diplomatic, very energy first, very sensitive to energy, very good with energy too. Growing up, if you were like me, you were very into spiritual or intuitive, big ideas or inspiring things, very expressive or animated in your own way, and you could get people motivated and probably didn't even notice it.
Yes.
And because you could do this in your sleep, two things. One is you really developed it as a child or a teenager, but you don't realize that some people can't do that. They haven't developed their brain and spirit in such a way to leverage that skill.
Mm-hmm.
Or they don't know how to get that inspiring energy into their life very easily. I bet if I asked you now, like, give me 5 things you can do in under 2 minutes to inspire yourself, you could be like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Some people, they're like, listen to good music. I don't know. Like, and so you have a lot of leverage. I do too in this zone, and valuing that is really key because I think this type is very good in the healing and inspiring domains, helping people transform, helping inspire, helping people grow, helping people face the difficult stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And some people avoid like feelings and stuff. And you and I'm just guessing based off your pattern, you're like, bring it on. Like, I've dealt with hard stuff before. Like,
yeah, absolutely. But it is interesting what you're saying, because I'm starting to recognize maybe my personality type and my choices. Remember how I said in the very beginning how there was a class that made me decide that I didn't want to take it? And this was to not continue with doing my BA in psychology and sociology, and it was the psychology of deviant behavior.
Okay.
We had to go research international and local cases of somebody who had done something awful and then study why they had done it and then present it to the entire class and then listen to, and I was just like, this is a lot. This isn't what I don't want to dive into people's pasts like in that sort of deep
Would
work.
you
I
feel
wanted to
like
focus
sad
on
just reading the story
research.
about it?
Yeah, there's a lot of empathy around it, but I think in that point in my life, I had already been through so much hardship and struggle that I didn't want to go continue to live in there. I was very future focused, which is you talk about inspiring and that kind of piece. So I think that's what drew me forward into like business and growing a business and growing people.
Our personality types definitely like growth. They definitely like contribution.
Yeah.
And we definitely like things of the soul. And when I say soul, not just like in the clouds, like I want to see practical things that's going to really make a difference, and it's going to be inspiring, and it's going to change the system to be healthier.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
and we just do this in our sleep, and someone will be like, "Oh, I wonder how we can improve this." Another person's like, "Well, why?"
Right. Right. Yeah. Have you read the book Surrounded by Idiots?
No,
It's a
that sounds like a book my wife would give me, though. She makes the joke, you know, Sixth Sense. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
And they're like, "I see dead people." She's like, "I see stupid people."
Yeah. It's funny, actually, it's reminding me now because when I worked in corporate, I remember asking one of the executives if they'd read that book, and they looked so offended. The book is technically about different personality types.
Yeah.
And when you don't understand different people, you think that you're surrounded by idiots. But the problem is that you're not looking at their strengths and who they are in each area.
Yes. And the same happens for yourself when you don't see parts of yourself that are underdeveloped.
Yes.
And so there's 4 areas. Basically, you have the spiritual, intuitive, big ideas, like creators see a big picture. You've got the intellects, the analyzers, the detail person that like you get the wrong word. They're like, oh my goodness, you said the wrong word. Like you didn't, or they like the outline and they go details all day. Then you got the social, emotional feelers, relationships. How does this relationship work? All about the feeling of it, right? And then you have the physical, like practical traditions. Give me the steps. Like, how does this feel? What do I actually see? What's the textures, right? And we all have these parts in us. But you'll notice the first thing that energizes or drains someone usually tells you what their first function is.
Ah, okay, interesting. Yeah.
So if someone walks into the room and they have like they give you the wrong vibe. Like, are you like, yeah, I want to talk to them? Right?
Yeah.
That would be one way to look at that and reflect on that. My daughter, she's a feeler first. First thing I have to do is give her a hug and show up with warm feelings. It doesn't matter what I say, but if I show up and I'm like, okay, you didn't do this right, and she's like,
Okay.
the intellect would be like, you didn't get the technical term right, or you didn't calculate the right amount of money, or you know, and they're just like, oh, this is a stupid word. I can't deal with this person. They can't keep track of any details. Like, oh my goodness. And then you have the physical, like my son, it's like, okay, what's next? What are we doing? Like, what's in front of my face? You talk about big ideas and changing a system, it's like, huh? But if you talk about, here are the things on your list to do that are fun. Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just kind of an illustration of, I think, going back to your idea, you were saying on that book of when you see people not understanding the parts and how we have different things that we're here to contribute and we've developed.
I know. And it's interesting because as you're talking, I'm like, I've also understood, and this is from NLP, that it's also listening to how somebody communicates. People also interpret the world through either like visual, through hearing, through feeling. So there's these different senses too. So, and you can pick that up when you listen to somebody and, you know, if they're either saying, I hear you, I feel you, or I see what you're saying. But that's another way. And it's interesting. We talk about how you help somebody make a change quickly. The things that we're talking about are actually the tools that if you can identify quickly where somebody is, it builds rapport quicker. And then you're able to help pass through some of those things and speak the same language faster.
And why does it build rapport faster, you think?
Because they feel like you get them. Because you're it's speaking the same language, but it's like an unspoken language that you're both speaking. That sounds
What
funny.
you're actually doing is you're getting how their brain is wired as well as how their spirit feels authentic.
Yes.
Like it feels authentic to them. And so I've noticed when I do that, I've had people just totally go, "Oh my goodness, I've never felt seen, I never felt heard." And I'm like, I'm not that smart. It's just a pattern. But I don't say that. I'm just like, "Oh, okay, all right," and let them be in that. I think it's so powerful.
It also takes practice because, like, I'm aware of this, and even that to ask me what my husband normally, and I don't know the answer. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm like, I'm gonna go have a conversation with him afterwards and just be like, "So, how's your day going?" and see if I can pick it out. But like, I have consciously gone into conversations with him, being like, "I wonder what he is," and then listened, and then I just forget, and I go into the conversation. So it is like a special thing that somebody can do. It takes practice. It's not just
Yeah,
something that we can all just
agreed.
pick up and go with, which I guess is why if you can do it, it really adds to the coaching. Not every coach does that, knows about it, or can do it. So
That's a good point. And that book again was called what?
surrounded by idiots.
Surrounded by Idiots.
That one breaks people into different categories. So I think it's 4 main categories. It does it by colors, like red, blues, yellows.
Yeah.
I think it actually was it either is based off of DISC. Have you heard of DISC?
DISC is Tony's model for personality.
Okay, so I think this
Or
is
he doesn't own it, he uses it. I'll say it that way.
exactly. So I think it goes way back. So obviously, like I did recruitment, and so when I did that, I actually ran the DISC assessment on
Okay.
like honestly, it's had to have been thousands of people. I know those profiles well. If I remember that book correctly, I'm pretty sure it was tied into that DISC model and sort of
Okay.
how people. Yeah, but it's a good book. It's a really good book.
Good. So I love this. I could talk to you for like another hour and a half.
I know. Me too.
So thank you. So on marketing, I saw your social media and you seem to really know social media. I really haven't used social media a lot until the last, I don't know, 6 months, a year or so. And I felt like, what do I do in this social media world? What are the rules? What's useful? Like that's my biggest question. What's actually useful? I don't want to just go, oh, I did it, like me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to be valuable and I want to use my time wisely. And so you've learned a few things there. One thing about marketing, I was talking to a marketing guy who had worked at a marketing company. Now he's in technology. And he'd done all these big accounts, big companies, but now he's trying to like market a small business. And he's like, nobody's buying his course, nobody's not getting any hits, and he's doing all cold contacts. My business coach referred me to this idea of kind of a warm outreach idea where you post on a topic for a month on your social media channels and you engage with the people that like or comment.
Yeah.
And you just be you. You're just friendly. And those that show interest, you just try to learn about them and understand their pain points, not from pushing, but just being genuine.
Yeah.
So I did that a little bit, just being friendly with people in the Facebook group. And I would just send like a WhatsApp message after every person practice client. And now I've gotten like several practice clients that have been multi-session or someone's child or friend. And I'm like, okay, I have so many people now. I got to stop this. I got to start charging and I got to transition to actually having a business.
Yeah.
I used to think I don't have the confidence. Now it's like, I don't have the business structure.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I get that for sure. Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on kind of warm marketing and what have you learned in social media to make it simpler? Because I think it's so important. And what's been your experience? Like, are you getting clients? Are you struggling? Are you learning things like kind of that general topics there?
Yeah. So let me, if I get off topic, just cut me off and redirect me.
Sure.
There's just so much going on in my head right now.
I gave you a lot there.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see where I can start. Okay. Let's talk about the first part about having where you were saying you sort of have all kinds of people, but you don't know how to charge. Is that
So the first one was I'm getting clients and practice clients, and now I need to start charging. And so I need to come up with an offer, and I need to figure out what actually my niche is. So I picked one.
okay?
I've been struggling because I'm actually finding I have some skills with helping people with relationships,
Yep.
kind of internal conflict. And then on the
Can I
other
stop you
side,
there?
I want to
Yeah.
help people with like the business side of like, and so I'm kind of feeling a little tug of war.
Yes, you sound exactly like me and where I was. Okay, so this is you brought up a good point. This is a great place actually, because this is where I would start. Is you have to know your niche. You
Yeah.
have to know it. And I'll tell you, I butted this for a good few months. I say a good few months. It was probably more like 6 months, 7 months, maybe even 8 months. Well, because I was just like, I don't care what everyone else says. I can help everyone. I don't need to niche. And it was because I had a background in working with professionals and I know the struggles that go on there. I was one,
Yeah.
and I'd come home and I would be crying, and it was because I was stressed out by my boss. I didn't like the commute, like all that stuff. But I had everything, like in terms of like I worked at Under Armour, and I was in charge of all of the retail stores across Canada, and some of the corporate division. So a massive job and at a fantastic, like cool company. And yet I would still have challenges. So I'm like, I really feel for those people who have gone up the scale of doing everything they're supposed to do. They've graduated, they got the degree, hit the job, they have the good friends, they have the fiance or the boyfriend or the husband, and yet they are still unhappy and unfulfilled. And I'm like, I resonate with those people and I want to help them. I
Okay.
also was kicked out at 16. And so I really resonate with teenagers who feel alone and like they have no one to go to or to talk to. And those are polarizing to me. I was just like, I don't know how you put those two together. I'm like, those are very different people. And so, and then I'm also a mom and I understand the struggles of trying to own a business and raise kids and the pressure you put on yourself for that. So I was like, I want to help professionals, I want to help parents, and I want to help teenagers. I was like,
So
again, I'm
two
back to
questions.
helping everyone.
Yeah. So one is it sounds like I want to use all my gifts and all of my experience. It sounds like one idea. And the other thought is, what is the need that you're trying to fulfill in coaching that you found like, oh, this satisfies me?
So I started to look at it a little bit differently. And I
Yeah.
started talking to other coaches, and I was like, well, this person is talking, what did she call them? Psychodemographics. So
Uh-huh.
instead of saying I only help this type of person, it was I help people struggling with this.
So
So I was
this
like,
kind of transformation.
exactly. So I can help you do this. And so it was like, if it's possible for you to, like, if yours aren't as polarizing as mine were, like they're very different. If you can find a commonality, you can actually find a unique niche there.
Yeah.
So, and you can play around with it, right? So, but what I will say is, okay, this is going to sound funny, but when you want a hamburger, what do you think of? Like, where would you go to get a hamburger?
At a restaurant, like burger place.
Okay, so for you, it's burger place.
Or the
Do they
cafe
sell?
that's called Moose Cafe and they have good burgers.
Okay, but do they sell more than just burgers?
Yeah, but like the Moose Cafe, it's like salads, burgers, paninis, burgers, and ice cream. Like that's
So my point with this, and I forget where I got this from, but people need to know what to come to you for. And there's a key here, and I'll go into more details in a second, but they need to know but just because they come to you for that thing doesn't mean that you can't also support in other areas. So just because you say this is my niche doesn't mean then that you have to tell everybody else to go away because you can't help them. That's not true. But
so it makes it easy to market because they know what to like. Oh, I'm going to get food and I'm going to get burger, but you
yes.
can have other things there. But it makes it simple to understand if you're trying to get people to come.
Yes, you also need authority and you need to be viewed as somebody who is an expert at what they talk about. If you are a jack of all trades and you're talking about this and that and this and that, they're not going to come to you because you have to be so in their head about their problems that they are just like, holy shit, this person knows all of my issues. I need to talk to them. Like that is the level of, and this isn't warm, right? This is cold. This is on social media because these people
Yeah.
do not know you. So they can't like you yet, and they certainly don't trust you. And people only buy from somebody they know, like, and trust. You literally have to. So the reason why the niche piece is so important and why I changed my viewpoint so much is because it was really like, well, who do I want to help? And for me, it's people who feel overwhelmed, burnt out, and stuck. And I'll tell you, since focusing on those topics, I can see my demographics on Instagram, like it breaks down who's following you.
Mhm.
And I have all kinds of the demographic that I'm focused on, but there are all kinds of teenagers that are in there too, because they're also struggling with stress and overwhelm and burnout. And so for me, I was surprised to actually see as many of them in there. And so I have one offering. This is, I'll just cut me off if you have any questions.
Yeah.
I went from having 3 offerings and I cut it down to 1 based on advice I was given. And the advice is that people already have a hard time making a decision. It is hard to sign up with somebody what that they're getting to know and understand what it is that you do. So when you have 3 packages, now all of a sudden it's like, well, which package is the right one for me? And a lot of the time they'll just throw in the towel and be like, I don't know. I don't know which one, how many calls do I get with this package? What is this? And it's just especially for me, right? And so maybe for
I'm
some,
struggling with overwhelm. I can't take 3
exactly.
more course
Exactly.
choices and what coaching. How
Exactly.
ironic that you decided to make 10 different options for overwhelmed clients.
Yeah. So, but when I was first starting, I got advice that it was important to have a 3-month program, a 6-month program, and a 12-month program
Yeah.
that people could choose from. See, there's all this conflicting advice out there. So part of it is also just being like, well, who am I talking to? What do they need? Like, what is that person likely? And what's their income, right? Like, what can they afford?
Someone said to me, look at the timeline. So instead of feeling bad, like, oh my goodness, I want to help working professionals that lost their job. How about you help them before they leave their job when they have money, or help them after they got the new job making a career plan? And so that way you can have a sustainable business. You could still help those other people, but you make the core of your business helping people at the timeline that are in a market that can actually pay for it. Because otherwise you're not sustainable.
Exactly. So what you're talking about is the financial qualifier.
Yeah.
So in your niche, part of what you need to know is what's the financial qualifier, because then you can actually speak to those people. So, you talk about getting into a conversation with people and you're giving advice and you're talking to them. But at some point you need to know, are they a potential client? Can you help them? Do they want help? Right? Like you need to know all of these things. And if you don't know what your niche is, it's hard to guide a conversation or to ask those questions to get to your package, because your package needs to be created for them to support and help them, and there needs to be a process. So if you're unclear about who you're talking to and how you help them, because you're helping this person and that person and this kind of person and that person, then you're like, I've got how many packages developed for it can come in time, but we're talking about like the just
First year of
starting
coaching,
business.
like first year.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So now, because I've had so many youth who keep reaching out to me, I've created a youth package that I'm just starting to work on now, but it comes in time, right?
Interesting. Oh, okay. So I might have even know of someone that I want to refer to you. Tell me just a tiny bit about your teenager package.
Yeah. So they are dealing with, it's interesting because some of it is so similar to what happens with professionals and with us when we get older. And so part of me thinks if I can help at a younger age to learn how to accept how they're feeling, because we learn, I think, even at that age, that sadness doesn't feel good, being angry doesn't feel good. And so we reject these parts of ourselves, and that just continues into adulthood. But like the truth is that everything of like all of those emotions becomes so much easier when you accept them.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so learning to accept it, but a lot of them are facing stress, anxiety, overwhelm, and then
Panic attacks. I had two that I helped two people recently with panic attacks, and I helped them, and I'm like, how did that happen?
it's amazing. It's amazing. It's like the best thing ever, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot there because I felt very alone at 16. Obviously, I got kicked out. And so I remember what those feelings are, and I remember how I got out of it. And I basically went from 16 and homeless to HR business partner at Under Armour, heading up all of the. So I'm like, how does somebody go from that? And then how do you work through feeling fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, all of these different things that come with that experience? And so that's layered differently for different teenagers and their experiences. But that feeling of alone and not having somebody to talk to who is just there as like a moral support. And you could have the greatest, best parents in the world, and it's still different to have an external person outside. And they can also there's more tough love is allowed at that point too. So yeah. So
Well, afterwards, I'll get some contact info from you. One thought I think that you were sharing, that the idea synthesized in my mind was, instead of thinking of an offer as a physical store where you only get burgers, thinking of it, what's the common type of energy transformation you're helping someone with?
mhm.
So from this energy or from this state of being to this state of being, and you definitely have a theme here of overwhelmed, professionals, teenagers, and moms. The common thing here is stuck, overwhelmed, burnt out. How do you get from this state
Yeah.
to, here's the three words of the state of being you're going to have after?
Yes.
And that's enough, it sounds like, for you to focus.
It's crazy. So this is what I would offer, because there's also like when you're starting out, you're like, well, am I going to run out of things to say? It's amazing the stuff that you'll start to create of like, well, I don't know if I should niche, if I, but to get to the level of detail for you to be in their head, and
Mhm.
nobody had like when you have one, let's call it like one major issue going on.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of sub things. So for my person, who's the person who's dealing with overwhelm, burnout, and feeling stuck, and they're sad and they're depressed, this person is probably not sleeping well. So me talking about sleep is important for them. How to get sleep, how to calm the mind, meditation, journaling, gratitude, like all these different things. They're not eating well. So nutrition, what kind of habits do you have in place? Are you so busy that you're just grabbing garbage constantly? Because that affects your energy.
I'm getting the sense that your passion has only increased since you've given yourself some focus.
So much. Yeah, it really, because it allows you to really feel their pain points. And I'm also realizing that I'm like, this to me affects so many people. It also affects your relationship and work. So if there's actually like a triad of what happens, but within that, there's all these other things. So if I could give a recommendation to a coach starting out, it would almost be like, who's the person? Like, get your sticky notes out. Write on the sticky note, who are the people? It was high achievers, people pleasers, business professionals, like what are these people? And then it was, I literally have the sticky notes on. I'm like, what else do I have there? It's like, I'm like, what are they? What are they? I'm like, so then business, they have issues with business, issues with family, and issues with their being able to fulfill their own needs with like their hobbies and their health. Like and then from there, what are all the other things? Get a different sticky note color and go down the list. And so for me, it was
Right.
like,
Got them right here. Okay, I'm
yes,
ready.
exactly. I have the exact same ones. No free time, right? They always say they have no free time. So for me, anyways, I won't go into like the
Okay, so I'll
details.
pause there just a minute.
Yeah,
So the $5,000 question is, who are you going to serve?
exactly. Yeah, that's Jeopardy, right? I haven't seen that show in so long.
So I'm loving this, and you are just like a chapter ahead, and it's so helpful to see. How many clients are you getting, and how satisfying is it?
Yeah. So my story is a little bit interesting. So this is how it happened for me. So I started before I'd even finished my certifications. So
Yeah.
I literally was just starting certifications, but before that, I was just like, I can help anybody. Jumped right in, took
Okay.
on clients, and then I started taking, and I had signed up for coaching because I believe in growth, and the more I invest in myself, the better
Yeah.
coach I'm going to be. And so I signed up, and then it was going back to school full time. So I
Yeah.
actually wrapped up with my clients and was like, okay, I have business structure I need to put in place. My time was fully allocated to that. I also, my children were home during the summer, so I was a
And you can
full
get
time
lots
mom.
done with kids at home. I mean, come on.
No, nothing. So I took a break, and then I did the 2 certifications, which took me like 6 months.
I
It's like,
signed up for 3 courses to certify through, and I just got done through a core of 100, and I'm like, what did I sign up for? This is a lot of work.
I know, I wasn't expecting it. So that's why I paused that. And then
Yeah.
I also was like, okay, I need to set up like foundational business stuff. I decided to take on more clients until I had like my contracts fully booked out,
Yeah.
until I understood, where am I filing? How am I filing? How am I collecting payments? I mean, I did that initially, but I was like, people aren't going to be able, because these people just paid in full right out the
Just
gate.
a
But I'm
sec
like,
here.
yeah.
I just got lunch delivered by my lovely daughter.
Oh, that's so sweet. So I was like, okay, I need to set up the structure. And then as I started going, I was like, okay, I also need to know how to do exactly what you're saying. How do I turn my content? So I had friend zoned myself. Use that one. So I can touch on that now,
Yeah,
maybe while you
please.
have your lunch. And so with with the friend zone piece, I was just giving advice, and like people would come in to chat with me, and I just had no, I really wasn't focused on selling to them. And so, of course, I didn't sell. I didn't
Yeah.
sell anything. And so I think that, it is an important piece. If you know what your niche is and you know how you help somebody, then you can help the conversation go there, right? So when I didn't focus on who it was that I was helping, just that I wanted to help, I really came across more as somebody's friend. So I made all kinds of friends online, and I know all kinds of beautiful and wonderful people, but I never focused the conversation on their potential issue. And so as I started to create content, I got more direct and more intentional with what I wanted to say and who I was talking to and how I was helping. And so that started to lead to more deeper conversations, but it wasn't until I had a like idea of a script on how to guide somebody to get on a call with me that I actually have gotten closer to booking those calls. Yes, there's been
So
some that
let's just
just
pause on the
come
idea of
naturally.
script, if I may.
Yeah.
Scripts are very powerful. So I'll give you a simple example of a script. Who for, or the value, why, what, and how. And then the final one is when.
Hmm.
The quality of your script will impact your energy, it'll impact your thought process, it'll impact your actions, it'll impact your relationships. I used to underestimate this idea of a script. But I think what you're talking about like proves the point. When you know who you're serving, the
Yeah.
value, why, like, well, I went through these experiences and this motivates me and I can help them and it inspires them. You know what you're doing, how you're doing it. And I don't think they're all going to come at once.
No.
But wouldn't you agree that the more that script is nurtured, the more growth you're going to see and joy?
Yeah, absolutely. I also found going into those conversations intimidating. I'm like, I don't know how to direct this. I don't want to come across as just one of the other people. I don't know about you, but my
Yeah.
inbox is filled with people trying to sell me something every day. And I no doubt that those people are
Yeah, no,
all
that's one of my worries.
tremendous
I don't
at
want
what
to
they
be a pushy
do.
salesperson.
Exactly. And I'm not doubting that they aren't great and wonderful people and good at what they do, just as we are. But it's like, how do you find an authentic way of having that conversation that works for you as an individual, but guides it to actually helping the person?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and so
it's
that helped me a
it's
lot.
so attractive and so welcoming and so acknowledging of their situation
Yes.
that they can't help but want to go, "Oh, I've got to learn more." Like, and yeah, I like where you're going with it. I like seeing your success. So, do you offer? What is your first package? Did you decide to do like several sessions per session? What was your first offer look like?
Before, like I mentioned, I had the 3, 6, and
Yeah.
12, and then I had different price points, and I had the ideal package I wanted people to go into, and honestly, it's been so much easier to just have one package and to really refine it and make it like I know exactly what I'm walking this person through, and I get them to do actually, I call it a personal success scan. And
Okay.
so before they even start with me, they know exactly sort of, they kind of get a blueprint of where they are, and they get an idea of how I'm and where I'm going to help them in each area of their life. So that sets up an expectation for them coming in, and it also allows me to know exactly where they are in every area of the where I can help them. So it
Mhm.
really sets the, because I think even we haven't really talked about sort of onboarding somebody, but that piece is really kind of helps me, for them to get the most out of working with me. It's like a great place to start. I forgot what I was
Yeah.
going to say. What was your question again?
This is good stuff.
I'm like, there's just so many ideas and so many things. I'm like, yeah.
No, this is
Um,
it's just helpful because I think I'm studying someone named Nikki von de Sanden from like Netherlands or somewhere over there, and she got me convinced that doing higher price packages
oh, the packages.
was better for starting a business and for more sustainable and to really focus on more on that particular need and really get good at how solving that problem.
Okay, yes, I can speak to this and hopefully this answers your question. So the one offer, much better. My package is $5,400
Okay.
Canadian for 3 months, but I offer payment plans. So the idea is that I'm not just going to slap a price tag on something. It's like everybody's financial situation is different, and I'm here to help. So if you need help figuring out the finances, that's a conversation that I'm happy to have with people. So I have set different payment plans that I can offer to somebody based off of their financial situation. I feel like that's actually a really important piece for a coach to have because I didn't know that in the beginning. I was sort of just like, here's my price. What's going to happen? And that isn't what it is. When you go into that sort of call of expressing what your package is and how much it costs, it's almost coaching in and of itself. What do you need help with? Because you'll hear things like, I need to speak to my significant other. Okay, well, you're on this call because it's an investment in your life and you're struggling with these things. How are they gonna? So then you can almost are coaching on the call with them to help them. Are your conversations normally productive, supportive? Have they supported you in the past with this? So that's one objection that comes up and can come up often. Another one is, I just don't have the money right now. Okay, well, what do you have? Do you have this is there this on the
I like
table
how
for you?
you are coaching and guiding clients. I'd love to
Mhm.
hear a little bit more on the pain point part where it sounds like you are really good at helping them feel seen in their pain point.
Yeah, that's called objection handling. So it's very normal for people when they don't know for sure that they're going to get the results that they want. So what they'll do is potentially, and some of this is subconscious, but they'll create problems. And if you don't talk to them about those things beforehand, they'll just say it's the price and they'll get out. So what you want to know before all of that is you want to know, you know, do you have the finances available? Which is also why when you're speaking to your niche, you'll have a financial qualifier. So ideally those you're drawing the right person to your profile right out the gate. But what's one of the other ones? I don't have time. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that, because and the whole point of this is that the person's gotten on the call with you because they have this really big pain point and they need help. But it's just funny how humans are. And so what you have to do is take a lot of the risk off of them. And so there's different risks that people are afraid of. They're not sure that they're actually going to get results. And that could be because they don't have faith in you. It could be because they don't have faith in themselves, because you could have all the proof in the world. And if they think, well, those people could do it, but I can't,
So
then you
there's
have
a
to
little
help
bit of
them
belief validating or molding.
So there's a bunch of different things there where you
How
kind
much have you learned in the last year and a half? This seems like you've learned a lot.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. It's so funny because you put on your coach's hat and you come out and you're like, I'm a great coach. You have that confidence, and you're like, I've helped people. People are telling me I'm worth this and that the session was incredible. Like I've had ones where I walk away and I melt down crying because of how much they've told me I've helped them. And it's just like the most fulfilling feeling. But to put a different hat, and I'm used to in HR, you have all kinds of different hats you have to put on in business, right? And so this was a very different experience because I'm like, okay, I have to put on a sales hat. I've never really worn a sales hat. I've hired salespeople, I've hired marketing people, but I've never really gone into that world. And so that has been a very eye-opening experience. And so now I'm finally like, okay, I'm launching my program on November 4th. I am ready to take on clients and I can't wait to see the transformation. So I'm in like so I'm in that like launching, getting that going. Love your sound. Yeah. So it's great. But yes, you're right. I've learned a lot. There's a lot to learn and it's constant, right? It's a constant growth. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how you are on time. I'm okay if we go a few minutes over, but I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you for your time away from your kids and your business and other things.
Yeah, of course. Well, they're at school right now, so
Okay.
That's why it's been so quiet.
Oh, good. Well, and this is your sacred, personal, not mom time, so I want to honor that.
Yeah, thank you. I have some time. I have like another 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay. So, yeah, I think just wrapping up, just sharing the joy of coaching and coming back to that, and the joy that when you do put on those other hats, and it may not be the most comfortable or enjoyable, but you come back to why you put those hats on, so you can have a business, so you can actually serve people better. And I'm finding like this for coaches, it meets a need to serve people, like when you serve them well.
Yeah.
And for me, it just feels such a need of significance and gratitude and contribution.
Yep.
And like I said to someone recently, like, I am honored to have you as my client. And they're like, oh, I'm so honored to have you. And you're like, keep it coming.
Yeah, it's so lovely. I think when you say the why, I'm like, that's absolutely the most critical piece. And like, it has to be such a strong why. And I think the reason why I say that is because as a coach, when you go out there, especially when you're first starting. So I'm going to keep in mind, like, this is coaches who are just getting going, but like, it feels like you're putting yourself out there because it's your face, it's
Your
what you're saying, it's your thoughts. And I mean, it is and it isn't too, right? It's a service that you're offering. It's not you, it's your service. So there is a difference there. But when we're first starting, it's hard to disconnect that. And the reason why it's important is because it can be very hard if you don't get, like, let's say you've created a piece of content that you think is amazing and you put it out there and it is crickets. It is hard to do that over and over and over again if you don't have a strong why. I'll share like just one last piece. So I created a video called Spilt Milk when I first started. And the video was me telling a story about a scientist explaining why he was so successful in his career. And then I did the reel and I was scared to put it out there. I almost didn't because I was like, I don't think I look very nice in this video. And this voice in my head was like, it's not about you. And so I hit send. And it was quiet for like quite some time. And then all of a sudden, my Instagram started like going a little bit crazy. And the video hit almost 500,000 views. And the comments were parents and moms being like, why is this video making me crying? Like, why am I crying? I really needed this story. Like all these. And then I met all kinds of people from that. And so it reminded me that my why is that I really want to share a positive perspective and I want to share pieces that I think will help people. And in order to do that, I have to not care about what people think about me, what I look like, if they don't understand what I'm saying. And then I've also put videos out where remixing a reel and me
Yeah.
sharing a piece. And I like to try and take funny, like, because it can be, personal development can be dry. So I try to create like a
Today
funny.
we'll be discussing personal development.
Exactly. So I try and make it comedic. And so one of them again went really viral, and then there was all kinds of great comments, way more than the negative, but there were negative comments. And so you can imagine, like, that's very hard coming out of your shell. And even if it was not my direct content, it's still me saying things. And I had somebody write like 4 paragraphs about how unfunny I am. And you know what?
No, I don't think that's right. No.
Yeah, they were like not having it. But when a video goes and hits 33 million people,
Well, the probability
there's
of
gonna
not having
be
anyone comment something at that scale is not likely.
right. And so, but it's just that why piece is so important because there's so
Can
many
I
different
just
things.
highlight what you
Yeah.
said? The moment I thought like, oh no, I don't look that great. I won't share this. And then some voice in my head said, no, this isn't about you. And I think I've had that same pattern where I don't even think that the content's that great. And the days when I'm like doubting or I'm not really feeling like, oh, I'm amazing. And it's just like, well, I'll just share anyway still. Like I'll still go through with it.
Yeah.
And those are the times where I get the most likes, usually the most comments when like, well, I don't know why I would share this, but okay. Like not that you don't have value, but that kind of like, what would I get out of this or how's it really going to help someone? It's the doubting energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also realizing that, like, because we're also like, this is a representation of ourselves. There's a certain level of like, I don't want to call it perfectionism, but like of what you put out there and you want it to show like who you are.
Yeah.
But you can take up way too much time thinking about that and doing that. And it's almost like a 70-30 rule. If it's like 70% good, like ship it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My friend said if it's a 5 or 6 or 4, Betty still needs to see it. Like that's the joke we said is there's someone out there named Betty who just came up
Yeah.
with a name, and it doesn't have to be a 10. Betty just wants a 5 today or a 4. Like, oh, you helped me with my anxiety, thank you. I didn't need a 10. I just needed a 4.
Yeah, it's so true. And I'm like, there have been times where I've been like, should it be this color or this color? And then I'm just like, oh man, I'm down like the wormhole. Like, and that's hard as a coach too, because a lot of time we're working on our own, and you're in your office alone, and so like that's also part of the reason why I created the coaches community is because to help have other to bounce an idea off of, and that goes to like support network and stuff. But yeah.
Well, thank you for opening up, sharing your journey, and I appreciate you joining your community. And if you could just leave people with one highlight of something we've talked about today that you're just like, hey, just remember this. Like if you're going away, just what's a key takeaway? If you got a big marker and you're like, you got it, don't forget this part, this one thing.
Yeah, I think it would be that every coach is unique, and you have a different way of saying something that other people haven't heard the way that you will say it. And that's really important because you'll resonate with people in your own way. And so if you don't take the action, if you don't get out there and if you don't do it, they won't get your help, and they need your help. So
I get chills as you're saying that.
yeah, so that would be my biggest thing. And I think the reason why that's important is because when you're first starting out, you see all these coaches doing these amazing things, built, and they've done all this stuff. And it's like, that doesn't mean that they can help the person that you're going to help just because they've done those things. So do the things, stay true to who you are, and just continue and stay strong in your why you started. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kirstin, for your time and your energy.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah. I really appreciate joining your podcast. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Until next time. And where can people learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I have a website. So it's Somersaltz, SOMERSALTZ.co. I had a little fun with the spelling when I started the company. And I'm on Instagram. So again, it's at Somersaltz, SOMERSALTZ. You can find me there. And I have a podcast and blog and some free resources on my website too. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. Thank you,
Yeah,
Deb.
thank you. Right there. Bye.